and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. I'm a parent educator, and my mission is to help children by helping parents. The motto of this podcast is raising our children, growing ourselves. Today, should kids do chores? This is part 2 of a 2-part show. If you've listened to the first part of this episode, then you are probably eagerly waiting for the second part. But if you are a brand new listener, and if this is your first time, then this episode will feel disjointed and it wouldn't make sense. I recommend 2 things. Number 1, if the topic of kids and chores is of interest to you, then pause, go back and listen to part 1. Number 2, you can sample a typical episode. This 2-part show is what I call a special episode. It's special because it's different in its format. Typically, I feature guest interviews on the podcast, and we have an amazing array of phenomenal guests. Previously, more frequently, now occasionally, I get together with my friend and colleague, host of the Balanced Parent podcast, Laura Froyen, and we do these special episodes where we answer listener parenting questions. For this 2-part show, we took a deep dive into the topic of chores. In the first part, we talked about our feelings about the word chores, shared our own experiences of growing up doing chores, unpacked the why of assigning chores to kids, started a discussion of age, development, and expectations, and answered a listener question. As well as we talked about the importance of parental attitude, engaging kids seamlessly into the process using playfulness and teaching crucial lessons and life skills like responsibility and helpfulness, and imparting our values without control. In this part, we continued the discussion of what kids are capable of doing at different ages. We both share how we do chores with our own kids, answer some fantastic questions from our listeners, talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and tell you what we think about paying kids for doing chores. A super packed, useful, and really helpful episode sprinkled with some humor and fun. If you have a question for us to be answered on one of our upcoming special episodes, please submit it by going to the contact page of my website, authenticparenting.com/contact. On there, you can submit a question using the form, or you can call the phone number that is on the page and leave a voicemail. And there is another tool which is free called SpeakPipe. You can submit an audio question. As a podcaster, of course, I love voicemail and audio messages. So I hope for our next show, we will get to hear your voice. One last thing. This series is brought to you by our course, All About Siblings. Laura and I work together very well. Last year, we taught a live 2-part workshop on sibling rivalry and sibling issues in general. Now it's available online as a self-study course. I rarely promote my own services, courses, and classes here on the podcast, but man, this course is gold. It's for anyone who raises siblings and faces typical sibling challenges and deals with some real conflicts and issues. It covers everything you need to know when it comes to handling sibling issues. From how to respond to I don't like my sister to endless bickering and fighting, jealousy, And that's not fair. We got you covered. You will learn the key mindset shifts you need to confidently navigate your kids' relationships with each other, and you will add critical tools to your toolbox that will help them take ownership of their relationship and start solving their own problems so that you can stop feeling like a referee or hall monitor. Go to authenticparenting.com/siblings to learn more and get enrolled in the course. The only resource you need for raising friends for life and coaching siblings through their conflicts like a pro. Again, go to authenticparenting.com/siblings to learn more and get yourself enrolled in the course. It will change your life. And now, please enjoy the second part of Should Kids Do Chores with Laura Froyen. Agreed. Yeah. Yes. Next.
Okay. Chores for ages 6 to 7. Dust lampshades, straighten bookshelves, sort the recycling. Yeah. Where did they come up with this list of things? I mean, sure, kids can do these things.
I know where they come up from. I had a client recently. They have several kids and older kids. The younger one is 7. And I said, the topic of chores and mom feeling overwhelmed came up. And I said, well, why don't you write down a list of things ideally you would like your children to take off of your plate? And honestly, what she came up with is everything. So basically, she doesn't want to do anything. She's tired. I get it.
I mean, these things like, dust lampshades, straighten bookshelves. I think that there is a place, and a time in our lives as busy parents with very little support to take those things off of everybody's chore list. Really like, do we have to polish the front doorknob?
It says polish front doorknobs. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I know.
I laugh.
And I mean, and I certainly, so much love to everybody, here. But I think that sometimes the most compassionate thing we can do is take a look at, if we are feeling overloaded and overwhelmed and resentful, how can we lighten our own load? Rather than
have fun with our kids. If you have time to do like boring tasks like this or make your children do, please don't. Go enjoy family time, connection time, go outdoors, have fun. Like I would love parents to focus on those things more because we are lacking these things less. Like the chores will be part of your life. Your kid will grow up. They will have responsibilities, believe me.
And they will decide for themselves whether they value polishing the front doorknob.
And that's not to say that we can't teach them anything. No, I am all pro teaching life skills, believe me. But I also want to prioritize fun, sleep, enjoyment, togetherness, playfulness, playing together, spending time in nature. Because
those are our basic human needs.
And they are diminishing. And our children need those things more than learning how to do chores in today's world. Yes.
We need and deserve them too.
Yes. Yeah. I'd rather have my daughter play outside with children than do certain chores because I said so and I'm the parent and she has to do it to learn responsibility.
I'm much more likely to so one of the kids' jobs in our house that just makes things easier for us is to empty out their lunch boxes when they come home. But if the neighbor kids are playing in the cul-de-sac and they want to get out on their scooters and bikes, every time, oh yeah, you want to go scooter? Please, yes, go. I'll take care of your lunch boxes. Thanks, Mom. And off they go. And that's wonderful,
Yeah. Before we go into the next age category, let's answer another question. So we're taking care of our community questions also.
Yeah. Okay. So this one's from, are we allowed to say their names? This one's from a Katie. Um, I think one of the reasons I struggle with getting my kids to do chores is because I'm not great at having my own routine for housework. And so I find it hard to consistently ask my kids for help either. I honestly just forget to ask for help because when and how I clean feels so random. Given my own spaciness about chores, what can I do to help my 4 and 6 year olds learn to take care of our home alongside me?
I love the honesty of Katie
Me
in I
too.
love the
Yeah.
honesty. I love her wording alongside me. Yes, she doesn't say how they can do the stuff that I don't want to do. And she's acknowledging her own vulnerability here. I
I guess
don't
just part
know.
of me, like, I would love to just give this mom permission. Like, I feel like somewhere along the way, we get the idea that there is some like moral superiority to doing home care a certain way, on a certain rhythm with regularity and consistency. And there just isn't. There's nothing moral, like, there's no morality to having a tidy kitchen counter. There's no morality to any of this. There's individual differences in how we like to keep our home, you know? And so I just I just want to give everybody permission to just figure out these things and how they work for themselves. It's okay. It's okay to not have a set rhythm. I have a set rhythm for things because I have ADHD, and if I don't do them, then we won't change our bedding for 3 months, and that's not okay for us. So I have to have a rhythm for those things, but the rhythms don't work for everybody, and that's okay.
Hmm. Well, we have a question from another Katie. I thought it was the same mom, but honestly, that this is a different person. She says, I get mad because my 6-year-old doesn't understand that if she doesn't do something, then I have to. Like she's fine with leaving her dirty dishes and having me clean them up. The core idea of helpfulness hasn't sunk in yet. I think this is probably related to brain development and that she literally cannot understand that kind of empathy yet, but I still get upset and end up in a mind space where I privately, kudos to you, ruminate about how my daughter is quote unquote lazy, etc. I would love some tips on how to hold expectations that are reasonable for this age and cope with her shenanigans to avoid helping, lying down, and crying. I think this is an excellent question. Please speak about age development, brain development, and expectations here.
Yeah, so it is totally developmentally appropriate for a 6-year-old to be very in the moment, to not want to be looking towards the future, and to be very self-focused. Their worldview is broadening. It's in the process of broadening, but it makes a lot of sense that they would be quite happy to have someone else take care of the dishes while they were going to play, because they're in the moment creatures. They have priorities that are different than yours. And that does not make them unkind or like unhelpful, or and that doesn't mean that they're treating you like a servant. It just means that they have different priorities that are age appropriate for them. That when they're done eating, the priority of having needing their basic need of satisfying hunger has been met, and now they have another drive that's going to be taking them away to go play or do something else. It makes complete sense that they wouldn't tidy, and they aren't thinking about it in this way of, if I don't do it, you're going to have to, and that's not fair to you. They're thinking about it from the place of, I don't want to do it. And that's completely developmentally appropriate. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I think dissecting this question, especially that sentence that if she doesn't do something, then I have to. This I have to do if you don't do it, and my daughter is lazy. This thinking is old programming. So I would love for this mom to do reflection and thinking about her own upbringing. What kind of chores did she have to do? Like, why is she feeling this way?
This word lazy too. My guess is that there's a young part of this probably quite lovely mom who heard that from time to time when she was a child. I think that there's another part of the question where she says, I know by the time I was 10, I was expected to vacuum, help with dishes, help with light yard work. And I was a total jerk about it and moaned about and would do anything to avoid helping. And isn't it interesting that her, that she's, that I wonder what language was used towards her when she was, like trying to avoid helping. And if that language that was used on her is similar to the language that she's now using privately in her head about her own daughter when her own daughter is trying to avoid work. I think that there's probably room for a little bit of like inner child work there of like kind of going in, reflecting what did she need as a child who was trying to avoid this work. That like the list that she has of what she was doing at 10, that's a lot for a 10-year-old to be expected. It makes a lot of sense as a 10-year-old that you wouldn't want to do some of those things. That's a lot, especially if they weren't in a way that was like fun and, exciting and then like involved in the family and wasn't part of that culture that we're talking about, Anna, it makes complete sense. And it also makes complete sense that you maybe internalized some false narrative about what that meant about you, that you didn't want to do it, that it maybe meant that you were lazy. I feel like often the times when we have those thoughts, those stories running in our heads about our kids, most of the time those stories got handed to us by our own parents unintentionally, but those stories, those narratives often tie back to our own childhood. Does that resonate with what you were thinking, Anna?
Absolutely. And I don't want to further take time to elaborate because I'm going to say similar things. But her clarification, when I asked her in the Facebook group to explain, so she has 2-point clarification, right? She says, I think my question is twofold. Number one, does a 6-year-old have the brain capacity to understand helping out yet as an act of service to the family? And number two, what is a reasonable amount of support to give during the chores? I think it's an excellent question.
So
right?
Good. Yeah. So even just the way that first one is phrased indicates that there's this sense of like obligation and drudgery to it. So I would even shift this. I think a 6-year-old absolutely has the capacity to want and desire to feel like an important part of a family and a contributing member of the family. Absolutely. 6-year-olds love to feel involved. 100%. I think if you went into any like kindergarten or first grade classroom where the teacher has the kids do chores, all of those teachers will tell you that the kids are always really excited about getting to do the chores in the classroom because the teacher is creating a culture of caretaking of the community environment. And that's different than it being an act of service. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course. And we spoke about this a little bit in the beginning. It's how it's delivered. Are we assigning chores to our kids because it's an act of service to the family? It sounds like a Catholic churchy to me a little bit,
It was totally giving me Catholic church vibes too.
Or are we just trying to, this is the same mom who says, I want my children to be alongside me, right?
Alongside me, yeah.
And so she's torn apart. I think this mom is on the right path. And I want to say, Katie, you're on the right path. You do your own inner work. Listen to this podcast episode.
And lean into the alongside, into that.
Yes. Bring that culture, the attitude that you invite your children to do the things with you and have patience if they want to be their own thing, like what Laura said about the developmental part. And the second part is, what is a reasonable amount of support to give during the chores? She's torn. She wants to help her children. She naturally understands that her 6-year-old, it would be more fun if they did it together and more helpful. And your child can learn helpfulness by you helping them to do the thing that you want them to help you with.
I would argue that that's the only way for them to really learn helpfulness. The only
100%, 100%. Yeah.
So if you want them to learn how to be a helpful person, you have to be helpful towards them. Oh, buddy, putting your toys away is really hard today, isn't it? Let's do it together. You don't have to do this alone. In our family, we're a team. Come on, let me help you. Really like leaning into that spirit, though, like that narrative, I think is absolutely necessary. I feel like reading between the lines here a little bit, though, is that this mom, I think too, is overwhelmed, has a lot on her plate. And so taking a look at what she's doing and thinking about, okay, so I want right now, my 6-year-old has an idea about helping out that isn't actually helping her do more helping out around the house. And so maybe just temporarily, I'm going to release some of the expectations I have of myself. We're going to simplify what we're doing around the house. And we're going to focus in on, instead of getting my child to help, we're going to focus in on this family culture of helpfulness. And we're going to just really simplify things. We're going to drop a lot of expectations. The house is going to be a little bit messier for a little while we really refocus on getting the word lazy out of our heads and getting the word team back in. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think really like, I think giving yourself a period of time to kind of to rejig the I don't know, the vibe with the helping would probably help a lot.
Yeah. Today I asked my neighbor who has 2 children, ages 3 and 6, a 3-year-old boy, 6-year-old girl. I said, I'm doing a podcast episode. How do you do chores in your household? And she shared with me, I recorded the audio. It's a bit noisy because the kid was playing in the background. So I will play it now so that other people can hear how certain people invite children to participate and they do it together. Like that woman has a 6-year-old, and I think it would be hopefully helpful for Katie.
I think they can help us bring a fork or a plate back to the sink. Mm-hmm. But we do it together as a family. We all do it. And they see us doing it and they can copy. And it's not stated as if they have to do it on their own and this is their chore. No, we are all going to take care of our space together. Can you help me bring this fork to the sink? Or if we're cleaning up, I do the cleaning up and then I say, can we all help clean up together? And I'll say to my daughter who's 6, can you put these 3 Barbies in the bin? Because sometimes when it's such a mess in the room, they literally don't know where to start. True. So you have to give them specific, I'm cleaning up, I'm putting away the Barbies and the clothes and the toys. Can you be responsible for these 3 Barbies? Can you be responsible for this shirt?
Laura, there is a question which is very brief and short before we go into the more age and development, which I haven't forgotten. Let's tackle this one question as well. My 6-year-old has 0 interest, never has, in tidying up. I'm still doing 99% of it. Help! I love this question.
Oh, gosh. I mean, it makes sense that you'd want some help with the tidying up. Short of taking a kid's hands and making them pick up their toys, which is actually something my mom did to me once as a kid. She thinks that story is funny. I don't remember.
What did she do?
I said no I wasn't allowed to say no to my mother. That was like the phrase in my house, don't say no to your mother. She's wonderful, but she has a few little things. We all of our parents do.
Hold on a second. I'm just going to say that's huge. That's huge. I think that's huge.
It's huge. Yes. It's huge. Yes. Yeah. Don't say no to your mother. But she told me to pick up my toys before dinner. And I was maybe I think I was probably 2. And I don't think that this is her favorite story of herself. I think she knows that she was frustrated and got overwhelmed. So I think she's brave in sharing that story because I think I was too young to remember it. And I think it makes a lot of sense. But she took my hands and made me pick up my toys. We're not recommending doing that. And again, my mom recognizes she wasn't at her best self. We all have moments like that as a parent. And my mom is one of my best friends now. We've done a lot of healing work. But
are you able to say no to her now?
Oh, yes. She doesn't always like it. But we stick through it and work through it. And then she tries to walk away. And I say, no, we're not walking away, and we're going to stick here for a minute. No, we have a wonderful relationship. I adore her. And, she had her own reasons for all of those things too, right? They all do. My upbringing was the first generation where the parents were actively attempting not to spank. And that doesn't mean that didn't happen in my home growing up a couple times. But for the most part, it didn't. And that's wonderful. And change takes time, takes generations sometimes. Anyway, off topic.
Off topic, but an important topic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's important. And so do you have anything?
So what I was saying was, like, short of like taking your child's hands and making them do the chore, it's not going to happen unless they want to, right? And then you're getting into like this currency of power and control that you don't want to be in with your kid, right? You want to be working in a place. And I know this parent who asked this question really well. I know she wants to be working from a place of mutual respect and connection and compassion and enjoyment. And so then you have to release this idea. You might have to just get comfortable that for the next little while my kids are young, I am going to be doing a lot of it. And I'm going to do the things that I need to do to make sure that that's not overwhelming for me and burdensome for me. That means taking, decluttering some of the toys, doing a toy rotation, getting help, having a routine for myself so that it's not, getting so bad, setting it up so that we do a quick tidy before each meal, which is what we do in the summers so that it doesn't get overwhelming. I mean, there's things that where you do have power, where you do have a little bit of control that you can be in charge of without trying to control the kid. And solidarity, sister, too. It's hard. When they're little, it's hard.
Yeah. When I hear that statement, 99% of the job I'm doing, we're the parents. Unfortunately, this is our job. We signed up for this. And it's not going to be always like that. But what I hear is I can relate to her because maybe she was a parentified child like me with a lot of responsibilities and heavy weight growing up. And by the time you are a parent, like you've already parented, you've done this taking care of everyone part. And of course you have resentment, you have anger, you hate the jobs. So I think doing your own work again, looking at your own upbringing and decoupling that from your current parenting is key, because your 6-year-old is not at fault for those feelings, right? And I hope your description of age development and the way we answered the previous questions, it seems like everybody's children are in the same age category here. Everybody's struggling with the 6-year-olds.
I mean, 6-year-olds have things to do. Like they are doing a lot. Most 6-year-olds in this, in our world are learning how to read. They're learning how to go to school. Like they're busy. And then they need to play. So I mean, like lots of compassion for the folks with 6-year-olds at home. It makes sense that they don't want to tidy up. That makes complete sense to me, that they don't want to tidy up. And it makes sense that could be hard as parents sometimes.
Moving up another developmental stage, according to this article, it's chores for ages 8 to 9, but maybe we can say school-age children, like younger school-age kids, and then we can talk about teens maybe. But again, going back to this list, scrub grout. That's one of the chores for an 8-year-old.
Sometimes I feel like this list reads like a list of like possible punishments for when you don't do something.
Hallelujah. Yes.
Like, that's what it sounds like.
Yes. It's like so bad. I'll share this article in the show notes, but we don't want to pay too much attention to this article. But please, what age appropriate expectations, developmentally appropriate things we can expect from our school-aged kids, 8, 9, 10?
I mean, I think that this is a really good age to start talking with your kids and actively involving them within that. Like talking about them, like, what are some parts of our house that you really like and appreciate? What are some things that you would like to see different about our house? And how are you feeling about taking some responsibility for those things? Having some collaborative conversations about that. My 9-year-old has been a little frustrated with our book organization system. And so she is developing a library system for our bookshelves, which I think is super cool and exciting. And that's her hobby, And so we're supporting her and buying her she wants a library system with like checkout cards. We're getting the stuff for her because she's got it all labeled and organized. It's beautiful. And that comes from within her, because it's her home and she wants to take ownership for it too. And so I think when we start getting into school age, really starting to collaborate with them. Some of the things that we ask our kids to do as a part of just being in our home on a regular basis are things like unloading the dishwasher, but they go through periods of time where they're not up for that. And so they offer to do other things. And so I think having just an ongoing conversation as opposed to I just don't love prescriptive lists of things that kids can do. I love helping parents talk to their kids and figure out and work together. Hey, buddy, you know what? I've been feeling a little overwhelmed on Saturday mornings because we want to get to hockey, and I want to get a few things done. Is there anything that you think we could work together on a few things so that we can get to hockey a little bit earlier, not feel so rushed as we're getting out the door? What are your ideas? And then just go with that and see what they say.
Yeah, inviting children into the process instead of having a fixed way of doing things. Also, our lives change with seasons, with summer, with school season, with sports, activities. Taking into consideration that and adjusting accordingly is key. And the third one I would say is honoring our children for who they are and appreciating their differences, knowing their strengths, utilizing their strengths, capitalizing on what they can do, as opposed to, no, you hate vacuuming, you're not good at it, you're going to do it because you're going to get better at it. I think that I that's not a mentality I subscribe to. I think we want to create a culture of we're doing this together. This is fun. This is joy. This is not a chore. Let's take the chore part out of the doing chores, right? I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, but we all bring unique gifts and talents and inclinations to the family, and why not have that be a part of our family culture?
Let's answer the last question, which is from Emily. Thank you, Emily. She's a follower of yours and mine. And I think she's getting her PhD in a relevant subject, either child development or history, I believe.
Yeah, she's super sweet. Yeah. Okay. So Emily says, I struggle with my kids' different abilities to do chores. Ooh, good. A sibling question. So this is a good time to plug our siblings course, Anna. Yes. Okay. So my oldest has some struggles. He's spicy, sensitive, strong-willed, and has unlucky coping, meaning he doesn't respond well to requests. And he's my first, so I was accustomed to doing everything for him. He just turned 5. My youngest is 2 3/4, is very eager to help, and I've been able to incorporate her help more. She helps me unload the dishwasher, helps me separate laundry, etc. And I feel like I expect her to help me more, but I don't want to set up unequal gender expectations of housework. Interesting. My son has a hard time throwing his pull-up away in the trash can in the morning when we ask him to. I've used some of Dr. Laura's suggestions on vocally appreciating the help. This sometimes leads him to wanting to do whatever my youngest is doing and then fighting for space to help me. And fighting is not the outcome I want. Anyway, my question is how to deal with different sibling abilities. Whew. Okay, what do you think, Anna?
This is a big question. So number one thing that jumps out at me is what we just already said, that toddlers naturally love to help. So I can see that her daughter, even though she's almost 3, she's already doing that. So I'm not sure if it's reinforcing gender stereotypes. I wouldn't go that far. You know what I mean? I think this is just a natural toddler thing. She wants to help and all of that.
So I do want to just mention, just because I read some research on this recently, Anna, that the gender gap in both domestic hours and pay starts at age 5 for kids. So yeah, so when they tally up the amount of hours girls versus boys spend doing housework at home. Girls do more on average. Starting at age 5, that gap is present and widens as kids get older, but boys get paid more for the chores that they do. So the gender, like that gender gap is very real. I think it's very aware of Emily to be noticing it and being like aware of it. My guess is that for families that are aware of it, they don't need to worry about it. That's, in general, that's what we, think. But that gap is actually very real. So the gender pay gap starts at age 5 with chores in kids' homes. Isn't that wild?
So girls want to do more naturally than boys?
No, they're asked to do more. They are asked, they're required to do more around the house. The tasks that girls tend to be asked to do tend to be daily tasks, like putting the dishes in the sink, washing the dishes, that type of thing. Whereas boys tend to be asked to do more intermittent tasks, like mowing the lawn or helping with yard work. And that same gender disparity is present with men and women in marriages too, in heterosexual marriages, where women tend to do more of the daily maintenance tasks of the home and men tend to do more of the intermittent tasks. I've been like diving deep on some of these questions in my own marriage lately. So I have a lot of I just have a lot of data on it. So that's interesting and something to be aware of.
So maybe she's thinking about along those lines. Yeah.
But I don't think she needs to worry about it, is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, she doesn't have to worry about that right now. But
I think other folks listening to be aware of it, because we do just naturally, because of cultural programming, ask our daughters to do more than our sons.
Very interesting. Yes, that is accurate and very interesting. So what can you say about her?
So the one thing that I like, the little sibling fighting piece, and I think that the sibling course would be really good for this parent and anybody who has a sibling issue going on. But likely what's happening is that she's using some of the vocal appreciation towards her daughter when her daughter is naturally helping. And that is inspiring a little bit of jealousy and competition with the son. And so I would get into practice of doing the vocal appreciating of your daughter's helpfulness, doing that in private with her, so that it does the relationship between the two siblings doesn't get burdened by mom's approval and that jealousy and competition. So that's the one. We have to be careful with sibling dynamics because their relationship is important and we want to stay out of it for the most part. And I think at some point having a clarifying conversation about, when I say thank you to your sister, it doesn't mean that I think you're not doing enough. I think, I really appreciate your role in our house and our home, even if they're not doing anything, still acting as if they are, I think is important too. So clarifying that with the kiddo who's maybe acting a little bit jealous or kind of getting in on the fight. You can also too, when you're about to do something that the sister always does, and then that fighting kind of ensues with the brother once he sees she's helping, you could go to the brother ahead of time and say, hey, buddy, I've been noticing that you've been wanting to unload the dishwasher with me. And so I wanted to give you the chance to help me out. Do you want to be my helper today? And really give him that sense of oh, wow, mom came to me because I'm this capable person. I don't know. Those are the things that I'm thinking right now, but
yeah, I'm reading the first sentence that says, I struggle with my kids' different abilities to do chores. I think this is her own struggle of seeing her daughter is more capable at the younger age, but her son, who is also young, age 5, I think she has maybe more expectations secretly in a hidden way. And she says that my oldest has some struggles. So naturally, maybe if he's struggling, he needs a little more help, scaffolding, hand-holding. Of course, it would be easy if he was also like your daughter, the toddler, who is good and eager to do. But your son maybe requires a little more work. But don't give up, because if you give up, then you will increase the gender gap, expectation gap. I think the more work she needs to do is help her son with the skills, breaking up the tasks into small skills, working on one skill first, then moving on to the next one. instead of focusing on the chore, I would focus on teaching him the skill. She says, doesn't respond well to requests. I would start with that skill, working with him how to respond to my requests. Because if he's not responding to your requests well, if you say go do your chores, he's not going to do it. I think we're not going to fix the chore part of the problem. We're going to focus on what's the skill that my child is lacking, missing in this task or in this stage of development. Let's focus on building that skill. I think that would be my main focus in assisting this kid, raising his self-esteem and scaffolding, holding his hand and saying, this is how we do it. Let's do it together. Oh my goodness. Maybe it will take more time and longer, but the child will acquire sense of confidence, competence, and then he can develop a ability to want to participate on his own. I think it comes naturally to the girl. That it doesn't seem like she needs a lot of hand holding or teaching or guiding. But with your son, I would say, a different approach is required. I think, and the struggle she has is within herself. I think
and I think, yeah, I do. And I think some kids don't respond well to requests. So that the term for that is demand avoidance. And then you just have, if you got a demand avoidant kid, you've just got to get good at phrasing requests so that they're not requests. Being
hey, buddy, playful. Yeah. For example.
Yeah. So, yes, playfulness. What's your plan for this? Oh, I see socks on the floor. You know what to do about that, don't you? Just kind of assuming you just have to tweak wording with demand avoidant kids.
We're done with the questions, Laura. Can we just quickly say a couple of words for older kids, preteens and teens?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this list that you have here for preteens is interesting. Again, it's things like vacuum entire rooms, scrub toilets, polish bathroom mirrors, sweep the garage. On the one hand,
clean the windows. I mean, what century is this list taken from? What preteen is going to clean windows? I don't know.
It's funny though. Half these things though, like sweeping the garage, sweeping the deck and patio, my kids do that stuff for fun because it, so I mean, and I think it's the attitude, and it's sitting down with these teens and figuring out what do you want to be able to do? Okay, so you're planning, you're thinking that you might like to go away to college. Okay, so what are the things that you would need to do to be able to go away to college? Making yourself a healthy meal, doing your laundry. What is your plan for learning how to do those things? Would you like to start cooking with me one night a week? And I'll teach you some of our family's favorite recipes, when it's time to, do your laundry. Do you want me to teach you how to work the laundry machine just in case you need to, there's an invitation again for being involved with the running of the home and understanding that these kids are starting to launch, the preteens and teens, they're moving, they're moving that direction. They do need opportunities to practice those important skills, but again, they can be it can be done consciously and intentionally. Not that I have teens and tweens. You're the mom of the teen, so why don't you tell us what is? I'm
the mom of the teen, and I can't complain. My teenager loves cleaning and organizing. I have not done anything specifically to instill that. She naturally is like me. I told you, I like cleaning and organizing. So she's like that. She's very minimalistic. She has nothing in her room. It's always organized and tidy. She has her own system. But I worked with her when she was younger on those skills. Now I can see, the skills that where I planted the seeds, they blossomed now. And does she have regular chores per se, official assigned? No. Is she helpful? Yes. Is she helpful every day? No. Is she busy and has her own life and priorities? Yes. Do I value them? Yes. Can I ask for help and expect her to be helpful? Absolutely. She can cook, she can bake, she can clean the bathroom the way I cannot clean. She loves the smell of cleaning supplies. Does she clean the bathroom every week? No. She came up with the plan. Mom, maybe I can clean the bathroom once a month. The rest of the time you can do it. Yes, I honor that. Does she hate vacuuming? Yes. So I'm not going to force her to do the things that she doesn't enjoy doing. But I think I have that approach. But before we conclude, and I have done a lot of the work up front based on what we've talked about during this entire episode. So I'm not going to go into detail. But I think before we finish, I would love to address the topic of allowance and chores and where we stand. I think it's
I mean,
important.
yeah. I mean, I think it's an important thing for kids to have the opportunity to have some of their money that's their own and to start learning how money works and how it feels to have your own money, how it feels to save your money, how it feels to give your money, you know. So I think that having some money, but I think the quickest way to to ruin intrinsic motivation is by tying money to something. You know, but like it's just there's no message clearer than saying like this is a bad task that you're not supposed to want to do, and I'm supposed to, and so I'm going to pay you to do it. Like that's going to make them not want to do something. And so no, I don't think we should pay for things
And it's transactional, right? It's very transactional, and no, I don't endorse that mentality. Maybe it works for some families and maybe they use it. It's not a criticism. Look, whatever works for your family. This is my view. If you don't like it, that's okay. I mean, this is a view that I subscribe to.
Yeah. I mean, we pay for some one-off things that so in the fall, we have 3 huge walnut trees and our yard is covered in walnuts. And my dad's walnut trees and his farm in Iowa didn't produce walnuts this year. And so he's worried about the deer and squirrel populations on his farm. And so he's offering to buy the walnuts from our yard. And so the girls are loading them up into buckets and selling them to their grandpa. And that seems great to me. Most of the time when my kids want to earn money, it's because they want to donate it to their favorite farm sanctuary. And I can't argue with that. And so, they might do some weeding in the garden, things that I would never ask them to do that they do alongside me, and we listen to music while we do, and it's still enjoyable. And then they get $5 to donate to their farm sanctuary that they love. And I think that's one, I love that. That's great, because it's a value,
Yeah. Yeah. And for my 14-year-old, I did give her a debit card for her birthday this year as a 14-year-old and with a little money, and she's managing it. She's checking her account. She's spending it. She's saving it. She's making decisions. So that's a way of teaching about money and saving and spending and learning that with the chores. So I'm not tying it to the chores because I'm not preparing a factory worker for the future, like that article says, because we are raising the kids to be successful and not just pay the bills because they're going to one day pay the bills. No, these type of jobs are diminishing. And a lot of the things that we want to teach our children to do as domestic chores and things of this nature are also going to disappear. There is robots, artificial intelligence. I'd rather have the correct values instilled in my child that I appreciate and the love of learning, intrinsic motivation, and life skills, general life skills that she can apply to any area, as opposed to narrowly being fixed on a specific chore. That, I want us to think globally and open our aperture to see the larger picture, as opposed to, I'm teaching this chore because when she grows up, she's going to be a wife and she's going to do laundry for her family. I think we can all learn the things that we didn't learn in childhood. No one taught me as a 13-year-old. I think that's not the point. And if any parent feels overwhelmed and alone and they want to elicit their children's help, I think maybe you need other resources. Be easy on yourself, right? Be creative, community help, partner help, relatives, barter with people, relying on our children to take the load off of our shoulders because they live here. Like one of my clients recently said, my children live here in this home. I bought this home and it's a privilege for them to live in my home. I said, whoa. I said, don't you think it's a right to live in a home? No, she says it's a privilege. So I think also doing some work about our own upbringing, which we already talked about. If we have epithets like lazy and things of this nature, when our 6-year-old wants to help as a play as opposed to help, let's investigate, let's do some self-work, because ultimately it's like we feel a certain way, our children just want to be kids.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's opportunities to say, like, thank you to this wonderful 6-year-old who's reminding us to prioritize play and well-being over drudgery. Like, what a gift it is to have these kids who teach us every day to be kinder to ourselves, to delight in the world around us, to have fun. Gosh, aren't we lucky?
Absolutely. Yeah. We can go on and on and on. But I think we did well. We answered some of the major questions that people posted about chores. I hope it was helpful. I can get feisty and energetic about certain topics and passionate.
Me too. Yes. It was so fun getting to talk about this with you, Anna. It's so nice to, like, we can have different perspectives but still have kind of the same worldview. It was lovely. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing this with me. Take care.